Imagine being a Colts fan and having them lose to Jacksonville and not making the fucking playoffs, Steve. Dude, think about that.
I mean, the only thing you experienced the last week of the season is what you were going to experience the next week in the playoffs. Why you make that face?
Jonathan Taylor, Steve. Why do you think some teams don't just give, for instance, and you come from a different perspective than me and AJ. AJ's a linebacker. I'm just somebody that got a chance to watch front row and kick balls and people fail.
I'm glad you admitted that.
Yeah, Steve. And by the way, you can say that because you played in the NFL. All these other goons on TV, though, I'm more athletic than all of you. I'll smack you right in the fucking mouth. That's neither here nor there, okay? You can say that for that whole thing. Anybody that played in the NFL can. But why do you think some play callers refuse to admit what is working? Do you think that is a real problem around the NFL? Do you think that's something that pride, ego can get involved in? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Well, I played for the Panthers, so, we didn't experience that a lot, but, just looking on the outside, looking in, man, I'm always critical of quarterbacks, right? And I've been extremely critical of quarterbacks, not throwing shade, but just looking at it in this perspective. You can't tell me when you're paying somebody a benchmark of $45 million a year, right? Or you're owed $46 or $45 million a year. You touch the ball the whole time. And AJ, I'll bring you in and I'm ask you, how many linebackers keep their job if they keep missing tackles?
0.
Can't make tackles.
Probably not going to make the team.
But 0.
Hold on. What about a corner who actually cannot cover?
Or check cover 2. But yeah.
Even in cover 2, he's running cover 3.
Okay.
How about a wide receiver who can't catch?
What's he doing?
All right. So my point is, you're paying a quarterback $45 million. You bet the farm and traded for him. And you're telling me we can win a game if we minimize him throwing the ball.
Oh, no.
So I'm no longer in football, but I'll use an analogy that all of us understand. If you buy a stock and it keeps going down, there is unrealized and realized gain. But at some point, you're going to have to hit that trigger to sell, or you going to just let it go to the bottom and then tell your wife, well, I blow our money, but hey, he's a good person. Our financial guy, he's a good guy. He can't pick any damn stocks, right? He done screwed up our kids' college fund. He done messed up all of our money, but man, he's a good person. Man, he's good.
Good handshake. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Good handshake. He looks you in the eye. That is Carson Wentz.
Oh, God. Ooh.
I hate to say it. Carson Wentz is exactly who I would love my daughter to date. But playing football?
Hey, with you saying that, Steve, what do they do now? Their GM and head coach wouldn't commit to him next year. What do you think happens for the Colts?
I think they have to get Frank Wright is exceptional. I love Frank Wright. I love the general manager. I love what they're doing. Right, but I'm experiencing in Carolina right now. You have all of the pieces. You have the great organization that knows how to draft. They know how to raise up their own. They have a great farm system. They know how to draft a kid in whatever round and pull them up out of that, and it becomes a great football, unbelievable, all pro, all this stuff. But your quarterback is a liability. When you compare him to everything else, linebackers, receivers, running back, all this stuff is great. But what is not great? The guy who's making who has a $45 million price tag, who's guaranteed. And the reason I'm saying is he's touching the ball every time. And you're saying we're really good if we minimize him working.
Steve, when you look at the Bengals this year, there's there's a lot of juice with them going into the playoffs. Do you think they can actually make a run in the AFC and, maybe what they don't know won't hurt them or whatever because they are pretty young? Do you think the Bengals will actually make a run here in the AFC?
I mean, yeah, I believe they can make a run. I do believe, youth can play against you because you don't know what you don't know, especially if you're playing a veteran team. Someone told me this as well, and it didn't really make sense. And then I sat on it for about 2 weeks, and it really made sense. Was if you're around losing enough, you don't really even realize how much it just gets into your fabric. It's like losing is like being around someone who smokes cigarettes, right? When
Yeah,
you're
it
around
permeates, right?
it permeates. You don't know that cigarette smoke is all over you until you go to somewhere else. You go, they say, "Are you a smoker?" You're like, "No." And then they're like, "Oh, well, such and such is. They live in my house." And then all of a sudden, you don't realize it's in everything. It's in your socks. It's in your shoes. It's in your clothes. It's in your washing machine. It's everywhere. It's in your blinds, everything. And so that's what losing is. It's like smoking cigarettes. You don't really realize how much of that stench is on you and with you, even through your fabric of your clothes, right? And when that happens, you're young, you don't realize it. You're there 10 years, and all of a sudden you're in the playoffs, and you're hyped. And AJ knows this too, right? And tell me if I'm wrong, AJ. When you're not very good for a long time, or you experience some losing for a little bit, and there's reasons why, at some point in the game, sitting on the bench, you go, "Man, how are we gonna screw this up?"
That's a negative way to look at it, Steve. I hate that you're on a team that was thinking like that.
AJ, be honest. Like sometimes when you have one of those years,
dude, he had Aaron and Brett, bro. He had Aaron and Brett.
Lucky. I was very lucky, but yeah, there's definitely been times where things aren't going well, and you, in the back of your mind, you're trying to block it out, but you're like, all right, well, how are we going to mess this one up today?
Yeah,
it happens.
And it doesn't have to be you're on a bad team your whole career. It just has to be you have a little bit of adversity, and your team collectively, you've shown that you can't overcome the self-inflicting wounds.
Well, I'm excited to see what teams get the cigarette smoke out of their restaurant.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of places that don't have any, from the smoking and non-smoking section, there's nothing divider there. Because they might have a good front office, but the coaching staff is smoking, and that shit's just getting all over everything. Or they might have great coaches, and the GMs are sitting in the non-smoking set. That shit's just getting all over it.